talk about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, one of those things for a lot of people is going to be their home.
Property rights are human rights, but the government thinks that it can take and take and take.
In construction litigation reform, what we're trying to do is to return to the state of Colorado a piece of the homeownership opportunity pie that's been driven out of the state by the trial bar. One thing we're doing to help move the culture, not only here in Colorado, but nationally, is using the product that I created out of LPR, which was a public policy strategic plan. It received a national award, and now our national organization uses that with any new chapter that wants to start a public policy program.
The value of LPR is that it trains leaders to be effective advocates for bold ideas.
3 or 4 years ago, I was fortunate to help found a group called Broomfield Taxpayer Matters. It's a local issue group, and we're focused on how do we bring some visibility on issues that are happening locally.
Awareness is a massive component to changing the culture for good.
The city council was floating this idea of a sales tax increase. We activated the community to provide their perspective on it. We didn't say one way or the other. We had just set the tone and set the stage to say, it's your money, not theirs, and how do you feel about that? That tax increase is now off the table, and that's culture change.
So when I became a commissioner, we were dealing with very tight budgets. We needed to really prioritize the budget in terms of the proper role of government, which I learned through LPR. But I couldn't do it alone. And so I took friends from city council who had gone through LPR, myself as a county commissioner, and we all sat down and really determined what were the things that needed to be funded under the proper role of government, and more importantly, what did not need to be funded, what we needed to defund, which were hard conversations within the community that had relied on that money for years. But in that time period, being able to educate our staff, who would far outlive my tenure as a county commissioner, was really important if we were going to make the proper role of government and budgeting sustainable throughout the years, beyond my term. And I think leaving that legacy is something I'm incredibly proud of.
We have to think about the future. We always have to have our eye on that, and what we do now is going to impact far beyond our lifetime.
We have 6,000 members currently and growing each day in one county, where we are so focused on local government, small government, making change in one area.
There's that old adage that all politics is local. It's what impacts you the most.
We spent 6 months influencing our legal department in Jefferson County Public Schools to change the word "or" in a policy. And changing that word "or" gave more power to parents, and it's a domino effect for curriculum and everything else that's involved. And so the family is the most fundamental unit of society, and that's what I'm fighting for.
We fight for the Constitution, we fight for limited government, we fight for the principles that our framers established in 1776, and we make sure that we represent clients who can vindicate those interests. Our focus is free speech, equal protection, natural resources and property rights, and the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms.
When I think about our individual right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the government has no role in that except to make sure that we're able to accomplish those things.
So we represent Jaden Rodriguez, who's an incredibly courageous 12-year-old boy who wore a patch on his backpack that said, "Don't tread on me." And promptly people complained, and when Mountain States wins in that case, as we hope that we do, it sets the precedent that the next time a student wants to wear a patch or say something or challenge the orthodoxy in their school, they'll have the confidence to know that they can and that their constitutional right is to do that. And so little by little, as we accumulate these precedents, the culture changes. People respect free speech, people respect your constitutional rights more and more.
I believe that I'm a change agent for the culture. And the reason I think that is because I am in a unique position to be able to mingle with a lot of different people through the association, through my public policy work, through my work, at elementary school with my granddaughter. And It's having the skills that I learned at LPR gives me that ability to go out into the world and initiate culture change to get us from that bold idea to fruition. You have to have culture agents. And that's what LPR creates, is an army of culture agents.
I think a lot of people believe that politicians are the ones that shape the culture. My view is a little bit different on that. I think that most politicians are a reflection of where our culture is at rather than cultural leaders. If we want better politicians that support better policies, then I think we need to take a deep, hard look in the mirror and ask ourselves what kind of culture we are and what kind of culture we want to be.
As the minority leader, I understand and know not everybody is suited to run for office. There's so many opportunities to affect change and move the ball in the Army for Freedom forward in order to effectuate real change in not just our state, but even our country.
If you skip the step of outreach to the people, your bold idea is not going to go anywhere. So you have to figure out how to get your bold idea to the people first and percolate it there.
LPR provided me with 3 tools to have an influence on the culture. First, it provided me with the philosophic arguments to justify and defend a free society. It provided me with the pragmatic arguments for why freedom works and free markets work. And thirdly, and most importantly, it provided me with the tools to go out and influence people who didn't already agree with me.
I have these flashcards in my office right now. These flashcards help me to remember what it is that I'm trying to do in the office that I serve in.
It's not enough that we have the right ideas. We must also be capable of going out and influencing other influencers if we're going to have an effect on the culture.
Because anger influences no one, and it changes no hearts and no minds.
And so if you're not likable and you make people think, well, this guy is crazy, or he's saying things that are just full of spite as opposed to persuasion, then I think you're less effective. The most effective people are the ones who draw you in, who make you want to be a part of the movement.
LPR gets people together that are at every stage of that process, the intellectual stage, perhaps the policy think tank type of stage, the activist stage of actually getting the policy done, and then also the politicians who are making the policy. I think that's one of the great, tremendous values of LPR, is to get all those people together in a room and make them work together.
I do feel like I'm changing the culture, and LPR has helped me to do that because I took the nebulous things that were in my brain thinking, somebody should do this, somebody should be able to put words to this, and it gave me the language that I needed that came from my heart.
I know we have changed the culture in Jefferson County because we have had some significant policy wins.
I think we're changing the paradigm all over this country.
We all have to be part of this stew. And the great thing about all that is that courage is contagious. You know, if one person raises their hand and says, I'm here for freedom, then the next person has the confidence to say, oh, I'm also here to make freedom happen. I'm going to be part of an army for freedom. And so I really think that we have a profound opportunity right now to use the tools in our toolbox to make change and to see a different country in the future.
Without a doubt, LPR changed my life.
It was the networking that has lifted me, has filled in gaps, and the people of LPR, coupled with the principals, have taken me to a level that I would have not reached without going through this program.
I would not be where I am today if it weren't for LPR, because it was that experience that convinced me that where I can have the most value in the Army for Freedom is as someone who goes out and trains young people how to think for themselves and how to think about the important ideas of freedom.
I believe in the Army for Freedom. Whether it's 2,500 grassroots volunteers from across the state activated to get a ballot question to protect the Electoral College, or fighting back against the governor and all of his money and influence in order to win Proposition HH, all of these victories have the same thing in common, and that's the grassroots united.
So when you have an opportunity to make change, you can't be afraid of your principles and living them out. You can't be worried about what critics are going to say, what the media is going to say, what your opponents are going to say, but you need to have the courage of your convictions to make sure that you live out your principles and that you use the opportunity that you have to play those out. Otherwise, we'll never change the culture.
It's not what I do, it's who I am. And so being an advocate for good economics, for free market economics, for free society, for me anyway, there's no days off.
Well, the end result I'm hoping for is that I don't have to be afraid of the America that my 6-year-old granddaughter is going to get to grow up in.
The thing I'm most proud of is that sense of empowerment that we're bringing to our neighbors, that I bring to my family. We're passing it on.
You know, there's a lot I'm lacking in life, but one thing I have is endurance. Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is at stake, and if it takes my lifetime, I'm in for it.
I'm a keeper of the flame. The army of freedom is marching on.